because they are going to come fast. I know that senior year is really busy, so getting those remembered and kind of maybe in a place you can see them every day will help keep things organized and in track. So don't forget to complete your FAFSA as well, get those recommendation letters going, and then really interact and engage with some of those people, whether it's your high school counselor or people at the colleges you're applying to. So those are just some really quick tips and tricks for college admissions. Did anyone have a general question about college admissions that you would hope to have answered today? Let me see, I think we have some things in the chat. And you can always unmute yourself or raise your hand by clicking that hand icon next to the chat box. Let's see. So, yes, if at any time you're kicked out of this workshop today, please reach out to us. We'll always have this information available to you afterwards. We'll have it recorded as well. So do not fear if something happens and there are more technical errors. We'll get it right and we'll make sure that you get that information. But with that being said, I don't see any other questions. Oh, wait, we do have a question. Danica, if you wouldn't mind, I think I see someone's hand up. Okay, so do you recommend using Common App or My Coalition or, let's see, wait, where did, I'm not able to see. Danica or Sandy, if you wouldn't mind reading that question out.
Sure. I think they're asking if we recommend using the Common App or the Coalition app or directly to the school app, and I'm sure Kaysen might be able to cover that. Kaysen?
Yeah, well, it really depends. For USF specifically, whether or not you use the Common App or the Coalition app, the information loads into our system in the same way. So if you are applying to multiple schools, the Common App or the Coalition app might be helpful, but we don't use all the information that the Common App or Coalition app might require. So, for example, they might require you to put in some essays or anything like that USF doesn't require. So if you are just applying to a couple schools, I would suggest doing just those applications individually. And if you're applying to multiple schools that might have different sets of requirements, then the Common App or the Coalition app might be helpful. But it really just depends on, what kind of schools you're applying to, what their admission criteria are, and things like that. So as I said before, there's a lot of information in the Common App because there are a lot of different schools that you can send the application to that have different requirements. So our application is actually a little bit simpler and more straightforward because, there's specifically the requirements that USF might have. So the Common App or Coalition app is for if you're applying to multiple schools. I recommend that if you're just applying to a couple, that you just apply to go to the websites of those individual schools and apply directly.
Awesome. Thank you, Kaysen. And with that being said, I'm sorry? That was the question. Okay. I do see one. Have completed the FAFSA several times in the past, never gotten anything other than loans. Will not completing the FAFSA prevent other forms of aid? We will actually get that answered during our session with Ms. Alice Marks, who can definitely tell us more about financial aid and FAFSA, but to be mindful of that time, and maybe because she might be able to answer it during her presentation, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next portion. And this will be, next we'll have already spoken very eloquently, Kaysen from the University of South Florida, to share a little bit more about their college admissions process.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me a second. Hopefully you can, oh, wrong one. And go back and try that again. Of course, I'm having trouble getting my PowerPoint up. Awesome. Here, and so basically what I'm going to do here while I'm getting this up is I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit. I'm going to go over the application process for USF, and I'm going to try to be as general as I can to kind of cover a lot of the state universities and the state university system have similar requirements as far as the process goes. So, okay, let's try that. So I'll try to cover as much as I can as far as the process goes when it comes to admission.
Kason, if you want to email it to one of us, we could pull it up if you want to narrate it.
Okay, yeah, it's not, for some reason it's not coming up.
Oh,
okay, can you guys see that?
We see it, yep.
Okay. All right, so let's go wonky. So USF I'm actually located at USF St. Pete. I'm one of the admissions counselors. I cover South Pinellas County, and I'm actually located in at USF St. Pete. But I'm kind of representing the entire USF system. As far as the application process goes, it's pretty straightforward for USF. So you're applying, you're doing one application, and it's for the USF system. So when you're applying, you get to select what campus you want to attend, and you just do one application, and you are, if you're a USF student, you are a USF student. What did you guys? I'm not seeing you. Give me a second. Sorry about that, guys. I think I lost you. There we go. Well, let's try that again. Everyone's having technical issues today.
Yeah, I think Microsoft Teams has really been on the fritz this morning. But while you're doing that, I see that we do have some questions, and I'll answer a few. And then if you get that PowerPoint up, we can jump right back in. Is that okay?
Yep, that's perfect.
Awesome. So I do see one question here that says, can I send transcripts from the high school later than the applications? One thing, different colleges and schools may have different requirements, but for the most part, if your high school is sending them and they may be using a different system like Navient, or if they are mailing it, it is okay for some schools that you send it after completing the application. Some require that you actually do so because it must come directly from the high school. So you may want to double check with the schools that you're interested in what their admissions process is, but for the most part, or generally speaking, it should be okay. I don't want to say it will because different schools, again, have different requirements. Did that answer that question?
I think I'm back. We good?
Awesome, you're back. Cool.
Okay. So what I will say is that when you're applying to just not USF, but any institution, I can say for like most of the state universities, even state colleges and community colleges, as soon as you complete the application and hit submit, what happens is a student account is created for you at that school. It's usually within 24 or 48 hours at USF, you will have access to that account. Once you log in, USF, you'd create something called your net ID. You should get an email that tells you what your USF number is, or U number, and then you will go through the process of creating your net ID. Your net ID is your login. Once you use that, you have access to your actual application. So what that means is that you can see if there's something missing. You can see if you're considered a resident. All of that information is available to you in that account. So most of the communication I get from students is like, oh, what's my application status? Am I missing something? And that information is available to you 24 hours after you create the application. So that's just something that you guys can go and check on your own. And if you have any questions, we can walk you through that process. But a lot of that information, whether or not something's missing, transcripts, test scores, anything like that, is going to be available in that student account. So this is kind of a little bit of information about the separate USF campuses. I like to say that USF as a system gives you the option to kind of get the experience of multiple different types of institutions. So we have USF Tampa, which is our large campus of 42,000 students. It's massive. I call it a little mini city. Anything that you need is going to be available on campus. There's a Publix on campus. Most of the sporting events are on campus, like the football stadium, everything like that is going to be on the Tampa campus. It's like your big college field. USF St. Pete is more kind of a medium-sized community-based campus. It is integrated in the heart of downtown St. Pete. As soon as you walk off campus, you're in downtown. So it's more of a city-based campus. Tampa is a little bit outside of the city. It's more self-contained. Then you have USF Sarasota, which is pretty much a one-building campus, and it's more of a specialized, close-knit type campus. So you have the ability, if you're a USF student, to attend classes at any campus they're available. So if you're a St. Pete student, you can take classes in Tampa if you want. If you're a Tampa student, you can take classes in Sarasota. So there's nothing really stopping you from kind of experiencing all the different fields of the campuses. You can, want to go to a football game and feel what that big campus feels like, go to Tampa. If you want to, kind of have more close-knit experiences, you want to be able to, like see your professors walking around on campus. It's kind of more of that situation is going to be either Sarasota or St. Pete. So I'm going to go over the freshman admission requirements. This is kind of all the different programs that we have at USF. There's a lot of different colleges, a lot of different majors. Altogether, I think it's over like 200 plus majors. First thing you need to do if you're interested in any college or university, look at the majors that they offer and see if it's something that fits an interest that you have. I don't know how often this happens, but to anyone else, but to me, I get students that have applied at USF, been admitted to USF, and then find out that we don't have the major that they want. And I'm just like, I don't know how that happens, but it happens. And just like look at the program that you're interested in, because what you're doing, you want to go to school for an education. So you want to find out if the school has a program that you're looking for or program of interest that you have. So that's kind of the first thing. Go to the website, do a little research, see what they have to offer you. And then you go through the application process. So for USF, we have the USF application on our website, the coalition application, or the common application. Regardless of what application you fill out, it comes into our system the same way. So we're going to see the same information regardless of whether or not you use the coalition app or the common app. The thing is with the coalition or common app is that there's extra information that you would need to fill out that you wouldn't need to fill out on the USF application specifically. So you have if you're applying to multiple schools, the common app or coalition app might be a good option. If you're applying to just a couple, then maybe you want to do the individual applications on the websites of the institutions you're looking at. So you have the application and the application fee, and then you will submit your high school transcripts and your SAT or ACT scores. You're going to want to wait, and honestly, it takes a little while for transcripts to get to the institution either way, but we also do receive transcripts before the student actually applies. And what happens for us specifically at USF, I'm not sure what other institutions do, but your application creates a student record. Everything that you submit after that gets attached to that student record. If you submit transcripts and test scores before that application is done, there's no place for that information to go. It just kind of sits in an area, and unless you contact us after the fact to reattach that information, in a lot of cases, they don't connect. So I would suggest doing the application first and then submitting the test scores or the transcripts afterwards. One thing I will say about the test, I've been asked a lot if we're going to be test optional. Really, that is not up to us. All the states, we are a state institution, colleges, community colleges, we're all state institutions. For the universities, we are determined what the requirements are as far as what we do and do not allow, has in large part to do with the Board of Governors, and that is with in Tallahassee. So they're the ones that decide whether or not we're going to be test optional, and at the moment, they have not decided we're going to be test optional. So until I know a lot of the schools, including USF, have been advocating for the students, but until the Board of Governors and the Florida governor decides to change that, we are going to be test optional. We're not going to be test optional, sorry about that. So until the Board of Governors or the Florida legislature decides to change that, we're going to require the SAT or the ACT. I know that College Board has stepped up the amount of tests that they are offering in light of COVID, as has ACT. So that is something to keep in mind, that they're adding more test dates because a lot of them were canceled due to COVID. So these are deadlines. We actually have updated our priority deadline to January 1st. So if you are applying to USF, your best option is to apply early. Basically everything's based on competitive enrollment. So if you are applying in July when the application opens, you have a better opportunity to be admitted than if you wait until February or March to apply, because there's more applications in and there's more competition. It's just based on the amount of applications we have to compare. So applying early is your best option, especially this year. I do know that we are going to be not emphasizing the test scores as much as we have in the past, because it's an ongoing issue. So in past years, it was a really strong correlation between test scores and admission, as well as in tandem with the high school transcript and the GPA. This year, we are not going to be emphasizing test scores as much as we have in the past. So what we do when a student sends us a high school transcript, we recalculate the GPA based on the core academic courses. So we're looking at your math, English, social sciences, natural sciences, and 2 years of foreign language. We also weight the GPA based on honors, AP, IB, and ACE Cambridge. We also super score the SAT and ACT. So if you take the test multiple times, if you have the opportunity to, we will give you the highest composite score. So generally, if a student sends us a transcript, it's going to look a little bit different to us than it does when they're looking at it at their high school, because we're only counting your core academic courses, and we're only looking at, and we're also weighting it based on AP, IB, dual enrollment, ACE Cambridge as well. So keep that in mind. We have students that, like, for example, you might take weight training. That's awesome. You're probably in way better shape than I am, but we don't count that in the recalculation of your GPA. We're only looking at your academic courses. So keep that in mind as well. Your GPA might look different based on our recalculation. So the average GPA for students for fall last year was between a 4.1 and a 4.4, and that was the middle 50%. We admit students above and below that point. I will say that the SAT and ACT scores are going to look a lot different this year than they have in the past. But that's what it was for our admitted students last year, and that was based on a recalculated GPA and a weighted recalculated GPA, as well as super scored SAT and ACT scores. And so if a student applies for the fall, we're going to review them for the fall. If they're not meeting the requirements, we'll automatically review them for summer. If they're not meeting those requirements, we'll automatically review them for fall, or for spring, sorry. So it's fall, summer, and spring. So a student, apply for whatever term you're interested in, and then we're gonna review you for every term you'd be admissible for. So it's not like if you apply for fall and you're not meeting, we're gonna deny you. What's gonna happen is we're gonna review you for all the other terms and offer you admission to another term if you meet those requirements for the other term. So if you apply for fall and you're not meeting, but you're meeting for summer, we might offer you summer admission, or we might offer you spring admission. So keep that in mind as well. It's a range. Your best option, recommendations, I can't emphasize this some more. Apply early. Even if you don't have test scores, put in your application and submit test scores later. What USF generally does is, if a student submits application and it's not complete, we'll give them as quite a bit of time to actually complete that application. We'll reach out to you, we'll email you, we'll call you, we'll bug you to complete that application. But in most cases, we're not going to just deny a student. We will give time for the test scores to come in, and we'll also give time for transcripts and things like that to come in. But your best bet is to apply early, because we're going to still be looking at you based on when you applied, not necessarily when everything else came in. So keep that in mind as well. So these are some of the scholarships that we offer for admission. If you're applying, we're automatically going to offer you these scholarships if you're meeting the requirements. And I believe some of those might be adjusted, but we automatically offer these scholarships. You don't have to apply for them. If you're meeting the requirements, they're going to be offered to you as long as you submit a completed application before February 15th. So that is our merit-based admission scholarship deadline. And these are some of the scholarships we also offer that are stackable. So that means that you can get multiple scholarships, and we will stack them together and give you more money, which is always good for students that are looking to apply for colleges and universities. There's also a ton of different options on our website for scholarships. There's a bunch of different options for outside scholarships. There's Scholly is a really good website that offers scholarships. FastWeb. If you look at most of the colleges and universities, we'll also include on our website the scholarships that we offer, as well as like links to other outside organizations that also offer scholarships. So keep that in mind as well. I'm sure that Ms. Alice will go over the different options that you have for financial aid. So for the Judy Genshaft Honors College, this is one of the other things that if you are meeting those requirements, we'll offer you admission to the Honors College. But you can also apply to the Honors College if you're not meeting exactly those requirements. You just submit an application. And I always suggest, like, regardless of where you're at as far as your credentials, if you want to go to the Honors College, apply, and they will review you based on a couple different criteria. And they might offer you admission to the Honors College, which comes with additional scholarship offers. It comes with there's actually an honors living and learning community. There's an accelerated MD program, which that accelerated MD program is no joke. Like 7 years to get an MD or PharmD is crazy, but it's a really good program. Do you have a question? I had your hand up. Oh, okay. And so we also have sorry, I skipped over a little bit. We also have an accelerated JD program or law program. One thing I will say that I can't emphasize enough to students is that there's so many students that think if I want to be a doctor, I have to do a pre-med program. Pre-med for most schools is an advising track. And even with almost most of the degrees we offer at USF, you can get the general education requirements and the requirements for the medical program that you're interested in most majors. Law school is even more flexible. You can study dance and still go to law school. There's no restriction on what you need to study as an undergrad to get into law school. Medical school has certain requirements you have to make. Like, for example, you have to take a science class with a lab, but that's required for general education anyway. So you have to take a science class with a lab in most majors. So most of the requirements you need to go to medical school are part of most majors anyway. So you don't have to specifically go to a biology degree or health sciences degree or pre-med to be a doctor. The most important thing is actually passing the MCAT test and having a solid GPA. Same thing with law school. Cost of attendance. This is just kind of a breakdown of our tuition cost, and you will notice that there's a big difference between in-state and out-of-state. And I don't know if we have any out-of-state students listening, but there is quite a big difference between in-state and out-of-state, and it has to do with taxes and much of other things I don't want to get into. But that's kind of I think we're the second or third lowest tuition in the state of Florida as far as universities go. So it's actually fairly affordable to go to USF as opposed to some of the other state institutions. These are, if you are planning to live on campus, I would suggest if you can, live on campus, even if you live locally. That's one of my biggest regrets. I actually graduated from USF St. Pete, and I regret not living on campus. I think that there's a lot of different things that you miss out on not living on campus. The opportunity to, I suggest doing it. I would come on campus after going to work and then going to class, and I'd be like, oh man, there was a job fair that I didn't know was going on, or there was an event that I didn't know was going on. So it's a really good idea. And also there's studies that show that students that live on campus not only are more engaged, but they do better in their coursework. So that's something. We have housing on both the St. Pete campus and the Tampa campus, and they are working on housing for the Sarasota campus.
Awesome.
And then so we have club sports, we have football, basketball, NCAA Division I sports if you're interested in any of that. A lot of those are going to be located on the Tampa campus. Once again, you can be a student in any campus in USF system and still participate in some of those opportunities and clubs and organizations. Virtual tours, super important. If you we are not doing live tours currently, but we do virtual tours, so you can actually get an idea of what the campus looks like. And why USF, there's a couple different reasons. I think USF is awesome, but visit the school. See if we have walking tours. You can come on the campus, kind of check it out. We don't have formal tours, but you can actually just see what we have to offer. Check out the institution, talk to people that go to the institution. If you can, talk to professors. Just go ahead and just figure out what's going to be the best fit for you. Not every student's going to be a good fit at USF. Not every student's going to be a good fit at FSU. But I think that you do yourself a benefit by actually just doing the research beforehand and seeing what's going to be a better fit for you, because that's going to be the most important thing to whether or not you actually graduate. Most students change their majors 3 or 4 times during the course of their college education, but whether or not the institution is a fit for them is going to be a bigger determinant of whether or not they'll actually graduate, which is what the goal is, to actually graduate. So
Awesome.
general information questions. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, email, give us a call. If you email the admissions at USF, you will be routed to your admissions counselor. If you're in Pinellas County, it's probably going to be me. So if you already send that email over there, it's probably going to come to the Pinellas County counselor, which is me. So thank you guys so much for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And that is for any institution that you're interested in. Reach out to them. We have admissions counselors. We have recruiters at SPC has excellent recruiters. USF has excellent recruiters. UF has excellent recruiters. Reach out to them. Ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question, and we're here to guide you through this process, regardless of what might be going on. That's our job, and you're never wasting our time. This is what we do. Thank you so much for your time, guys.
Thank you, Kason. That is, again, we'll have his contact information and some more information about USF and USF St. Petersburg campus in our email afterwards. And then also I'd like to really quickly introduce Melvin Shepard, who is an admissions recruiter with SPC, which is an awesome institution that I work at, but I'll let Melvin take it from here for the next few moments. And I think you're on mute still, Melvin.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I'm sharing my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes,
All
Mel.
right.
Yep, we can see it.
Thank you for the communication. So, my name is Mel Sheppard. Like I was so politely introduced, I am a admissions recruiter for Saint Petersburg College. Now, first thing about Saint Petersburg College is we're a college that's been around for a while. We've been around. We know this business very well. As you see your screen, we have 10 communities at which we offer our degrees. We offer over 100 degrees. But what you really want to know is about access. How do I get into St. Petersburg College? What do I need to do? And basically, we're open access campus. We're open access school. Once you graduate from high school or get a GED or a signed homeschool affidavit, that's the first step in being a Titan. Then you must take a test, your ACT, SAT, or our PERT test. And once you take that test, we'll assess that test just to make sure that you are ready for college level courses. If not, then you would take some developmental courses. But as you can see, there's no minimum GPA requirement. There's no foreign language requirement to get to St. Petersburg College. St. Petersburg College is regionally accredited college. We are mandated the same as USF, UCF, Florida State. We're governed by the state of Florida as well. We offer over 30 bachelor degrees. So coming to USF, coming to SPC, you're going to a college where you could stay and get a full-year degree. But also, you can get a 2-year degree. You can get an associate degree with us. That's an AA. You're going to hear referred to as. You get that AA, that means you're planning to transfer to those fabulous institutions like USF, University of Florida, UCF, and others. If you transfer to the state college system, the USFs, the UCFs, the Floridas, it's guaranteed admissions with an AA into the college. We also offer AS degrees and offer an Associate of Science degree. And the difference between the AA and the AS is the AS is saying, hey, I'm going to get this 2-year degree in nursing. I'm going to be a nurse. So I know that. I'm going to finish. I'm going to go be a nurse. I'm going to make good money and be satisfied with that. And I may return to SPC later, get a BSc in, which is a bachelor's in nursing or something like that. But I know I want to do 2 years and go to work. I know I want to be a dental hygienist. I'm gonna go to associate in science, and I'm gonna go, make my 70 grand as a dental hygienist. It's important to know that we have a robust online program. We have a robust online program at Saint Petersburg College, which serves us very well in the current climate that we're in, that we're suited to offer our students over 370 different classes online, degrees that are online, social degrees that could be taken fully online, and also bachelor degrees. Now, about our programs, is SPC right for you? Like was said earlier, the program, the offerings must be in place that fits your dreams, that fits your potential. And I'll start with our arts and humanities. We offer programs in arts, the music education, studio, theater, digital media, music industry, recording arts, AS. Remember what I said about the AA and the AS. The AA is saying, hey, I'm going to go over to USF. This is our FUSE program. When you see FUSE, this is how we have a partnership with USF in which we guarantee admissions into the program once you get an AA. And if you get an AA in art history with us and you're in the FUSE program, we can guarantee you admissions into the art history program. The art history program. That's a little deeper than just getting admissions into the school. You actually get into the program of your choosing. We also have the same articulation, the same agreement with the Studio Arts AA. Business. We have a lot of articulations with USF through our FUSE program in business. We also offer a bachelor's degree ourselves in business administration, management, organizational leadership, and sustainability management. So you can start with us and you can stay with us, or you can choose the FUSE route, go over to USF, get into the School of Finance, go over US, or you can just get an AA and decide, hey, I want to go to another institution to finish my degree. Communications. We offer an AA in American Sign Language, AA in Communication, English, Mass Communications, and World Language, which also translates, of course, to FUSE, as you see there. We have a phenomenal education program. Phenomenal. We offer all these different bachelor's degrees in education. Also our AA in education. As you can see, we don't have any articulations there for USF. Now, engineering, manufacturing, and building arts. Here we have an articulation with FAMU. It's our Ignite program, and it's an articulation to FAMU. And one of the most popular ones is the engineering program. But we also have different architecture, mechanical engineering, AA. Go wherever you want to go. Go to FAMU, got the biomedical, building design and instruction, engineering.
I'm not sure I can see your PowerPoint anymore. Is everyone able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Oh. Yes, I see it.
That probably is just me. My apologies.
Okay. Stop scaring people.
But that does remind me, my apologies, and not to cut it short, but I do want to be mindful of all of the time. and I know Melvin is an expert in all of the programs and SPC related, but if you could share with us really quickly some tips that you think seniors in college, or excuse me, seniors in high school should be mindful of when applying to SPC and other colleges similar to that offer several associate degrees and few bachelor degrees, and what they could really do during this time in high school to prepare and be ready to apply and enter.
Yes, that's a great question. So I think what you can do now as seniors to get ready for, let's say, an SPC or some of, I guess you could say, a smaller college or a community college type. A deal is do your research and understand your situation. SPC, as great a price as USS, SPC is still half that price. So it's also know your situation in these economic times. Know whether you're comfortable leaving home. You can come to SPC from the comfort of your home. You can get your whole AA online with us. Take 2 years to kind of let COVID die down. If that's the situation, do your next 2 years at the state university that you choose. So I think it's basically just being aware of your options. Always do an application to SPC if you live locally, because you can always have that like I was mentioned earlier, you have that account here waiting on you. Get the student number. You don't have to ever use it. It's not going anywhere. This month, at most high schools, we waive the application fee. So get those free $40. Have that account ready, sitting just in case something happened where you need to come home. Heaven forbid, but always have and always be physically minded too as well. But always have that close to home, that home team college ready for it.
Awesome. Thank you. That is really, I think, great advice, because SBC is here, like he mentioned, applying and having it always as an option, whether you go and do have to come back, whether you want to stay. It has so many opportunities and ways for you to either get to your path, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, about how you can go to SPC and use that also as a launching board to some of these other schools like USF, or maybe another school outside of the state or other places in the state. But thank you, Melvin, for sharing a little bit more about SPC. And also we'll make sure that you have his information, not only in the chat, but in an email. So that way you can always reach out to him if you have any questions about SPC. I saw a few in here that we can get that specialized information to you. But now I would like to turn it over to Ms. Alice Marks, who share a little bit more about what I think we all are thinking about, financial aid.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. Give me just a minute to see if I could get my PowerPoint up. And I will tell you one thing, if my internet goes away, please don't panic. I'll be right back. You won't even have time to go get another drink. It goes away and comes back very quickly, unexpectedly. So I have a short presentation. It does have a video. Are you all able to see my screen? Can everyone see my screen? Okay. I always have to check because I will be like teaching my class and thinking everyone sees it and they don't. So we will cover this. We will watch, I believe it's a 12-minute video, very informative. We'll have plenty of time for questions at the end, and we definitely will answer the question that was asked earlier on. So here's a look at the agenda. This is not a complete financial aid session. We are basically focusing on the beginning stages, applying for financial aid, specifically the FAFSA, how to fill it out, dependency status, who has to give their parents information and who does not. What if my information has changed? And what do you mean I've been selected for verification? So to get started applying for financial aid, we have students complete the free application for federal student aid. That's what we all call the FAFSA. And there are several pronunciations of it, but we all basically know what you mean, the free application federal student aid.gov. Never, ever, ever go anywhere where they ask you to pay for a free application for federal student aid. There are companies, that's their business, and they will help you, but they'll charge you, I believe it's up to about $130 now to do the application that you can do for free, and your school, any school financial aid staff would help you do. So that is the website. We have a link to that on our college website. And that is the starting point application. So maybe you know that your family's income is higher than that is required for a Pell Grant, and you know that the only other option might be loans, but you also want to apply for scholarships. Several applications, in fact, the majority of them, will operate on the option of unmet need. And I can talk a little bit more about that later, but for you to be determined whether you have unmet need for a scholarship application, they will expect you to have completed the FAFSA. To get started, you need to create a user ID. The FSA, I'm just hesitating here because I'm not used to seeing it like this. I'm used to seeing, oh, I see what they've done. There's no space. FSA space ID. The username and password, you will set that up. If you are a dependent student who has to provide your parents' information also, at least one parent needs to also create an FSA user ID, and that's covered in the video at length. October 1, 2020, the application for next year's financial aid, this would be for financial aid students will be receiving to pay for costs in August of 2021. That application is already open. And we urge our students to do a renewal application, and new students, we urge them now, if you're a senior in high school, you should be completing the FAFSA for next August. And the most important point that I think some people miss is it's not just completing the FAFSA, you must also follow up with the financial aid office at the school you chose. And you should do that well before April. Now, that's not anyone's hard and fast deadline. That's Alice's recommended deadline. I like to use April. People seem to remember that taxes are due normally in a normal year, April 15th. So we have registration that opens in April for classes beginning in August. So if you have not done your FAFSA October, November, December, and now we roll into the calendar year 21, make sure that you have followed up with your financial aid office by April, if not before. At the university, they are looking for you to do that FAFSA earlier, and depends on the university, they probably want you to have a completed file closer to January 1 or possibly February 1. Been a long time since I've been at USF, so I can't tell you for sure the deadline dates, but I know our experts can. So that's important. A lot of people get a little bit confused. Why are we doing a FAFSA now for something that we'll use 10 months from now? Because the secret to financial aid is apply early. Do everything early and follow up early. And another secret to financial aid when you get on that FAFSA is to use the IRS data retrieval tool to pull your tax data from the IRS to your FAFSA application. And there's several reasons for that. Accuracy would be one. If you get selected for verification, that's one less document that you have to retrieve. If you did not use the IRS data retrieval tool, we will be asking you for either a tax form or an IRS tax return transcript, which may or may not be easy for you to get your hands on. So we encourage everyone to at least try to use the data retrieval tool. Some people cannot use it, but the majority of the people can. And the school code that you will need to know if you will be attending SPC is 001528. So I'm going to see if I can make this video play. I practiced it. I promise it worked. And it's not working now. So there it is. Ah, yes. Success. So this is about 12 minutes, but it's very informative. I love this video. So we'll talk to you in a few.
Hey, Alice, I think we need to also share the sound so that we can hear it.
Um,
So what you may
not
need to do
sure.
is if you have your sharing on, you'll have to either stop it, and then when you're clicking to share screen, make sure that it includes the audio. It says include computer audio or include computer speakers, and that should allow us to be able to hear.
Okay, let me try that again then. I'm sorry, I did not realize
I
that.
always forget to do the same.
So I have not stopped sharing yet, have I?
Yes, you have.
Okay, so I'm going to share again, and there should be an option to share
Yes, so if
sound.
you hover over it, it should allow you to, if it look at the little top, there are maybe 2 check boxes, and one says include computer audio.
I'm not seeing that, but hold on, let me. Oh no. So I guess I didn't practice enough. I have share content when I hover over the share icon.
And click on it, and it gives you the different options. But I think Danica is going to try to bring that up in the meantime if you're not able to.
Okay. Oh, that would be wonderful. Can I give, do I need to give control? I just saw that flash. Share. Wait a minute. Maybe. No. Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Oh,
If you actually just share that link to Danica, she'll be able to pull it up. And then while we're getting that going, I will answer a few questions that we have in the chat. And thank you, Kaysen,
okay.
as well
That would
for
be great.
answering.
What I'm going to do is forward the whole presentation, so maybe we can extract that link out of here. So I
She
need
has
to.
it. She has it. All you have to do is just stop sharing your screen, and we'll have Danica share it. Thank you so much. But
Okay, trying to stop sharing my screen and I don't see the option.
okay, and we
Can
can
you maybe
see.
stop me? I'm not finding the option to stop sharing. Stop.
Oh, okay. While that is going, Kaysen, thank you as well for answering a lot of those questions in the chat box. But let's see. You've already answered a lot of them, but if you have not taken your ACTs, can you still apply early because you won't be taking them until spring? Like I believe Kaysen said, yes, applying first is usually a great thing because it allows those test scores and applications whenever they are sent to be attached to your application rather than just out there or on someone's desk. And then also we had another question. My first SAT try was below the freshman range for USF last year, but higher than the range for some admissions. I plan on retaking it. But if I did the same or lower, would my current score suffice, or is there a concrete minimum accepted? And Kaysen answered that by saying, apply and submit, and then send the updated test scores when they become available. And I believe during his presentation, he also mentioned that they will either super score or look at the best scores that are provided.
Yeah, exactly. And we also, if you're looking at the like submitting those items, it's the information I put it was the average, so it's the middle 50%. So we admitted students below that point as well as above. So keep that in mind. That's just the middle 50% of students.
Super score, my apologies. Super scoring is a way that some colleges look at the test scores that you submit. So let's say, for example, on the SAT, maybe one time you get a 900 total score or reading, writing score and math. And then the next time you take it, you get a 1200. In the individual sections, maybe you did really great during your math section on the first one, even though your overall score was lower. And then on the second one, your math section score was a little bit lower. What they'll do is they'll look at the best of those, they'll look at the higher of those subject scores and look at it they'll kind of compare it by category. So compare your first test to your second test, math scores, whichever one's higher, they'll take that. They'll compare your first reading writing score to your second reading writing score, and then they'll take the higher of that. So it means that even if you did maybe better on one section of the test, on a time that you maybe did better than the time before, they'll just take the highest of them all. So super scoring, they'll take the highest of them. And I think the video is ready to go, Danica? Awesome. So to the video, back to
and tips for sections that may be difficult to complete.
Thank you.
After viewing this program, we hope it will help students and parents better understand how to complete the FAFSA and to complete it accurately. Remember, if you have questions, use the resources given at the end of the program. Let's begin. The FAFSA uses skip logic. This means that not all FAFSAs will have the same questions. For example, a student completing the FAFSA the first time will have questions that a student completing a renewal FAFSA will not see. Another example is a student who is age 24 or older will not have all the dependency section because the student is the age for an independent student. A few tips before getting started. If you're not sure how to answer a question, click on the question mark at the end of each question. This feature offers a detailed explanation of the question. When moving through the FAFSA, make sure you use the Next and Previous buttons near the bottom. Do not use the browser navigation arrow, which may cause you to lose information and have to start over. The free application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA, is used to apply for financial aid to help students pay for college and college-related expenses. The FAFSA can be filled out and submitted at www.fafsa.gov, or you can download the My Student Aid app to complete it there. The FAFSA determines if you'll need parental information, such as your parents' marital status and tax filing information. If you're at least 24 years old or married, you will not need parental information. However, if you're a high school student or recently graduated, chances are you will need information from your parents. The FAFSA has a section that determines if parental information is needed. Okay, time to start a new FAFSA. First things first, it's best to have an FSA ID, which is your username and password when you fill out the FAFSA. That will be used to electronically sign the FAFSA and transfer some tax information from the IRS. It can also be used later to access your federal student aid records. You can create your FSA ID from the FAFSA. If parental information is needed, at least one of your parents will also need an FSA ID. Parents can create the FSA ID here as well. Once done, it's time to select the academic year. That's the year you will be in college. Now, on to the Save key. The Save key allows you to save the information you've filled out so far and return to complete and submit your application. This is where you'll create a 4 to 8-digit alpha and/or number code. By the way, your Save key should not be shared unless it's shared with your parents, so they can complete the parental section of the FAFSA. Okay, you're all set to move on to the first section of the FAFSA. This first section asks for basic information. Please make sure that the name you enter is exactly the same as it appears on your Social Security card. Do not use nicknames or abbreviations. Remember, if the name you submit does not match the name on your Social Security card, there will be lengthy delays receiving or processing your federal student aid. Next, provide your email address, and be sure to check it regularly. Email will be the primary way that the Department of Education and colleges contact you. Next is student eligibility. If you're a male and completing the FAFSA for the first time, the student eligibility section will ask if you're registered with Selective Service. If you're not yet registered, you can use the FAFSA to register, since you must register with Selective Service before you can receive federal student aid. In the next section, you'll be asked to enter the name, city, and state of your high school, then click Search. Select the school from the menu, then click Next. Next up is the question about school selection. This is where you'll select the colleges that you're considering attending. Returning college students, make sure you enter the college that you're returning to. You can select up to 10 colleges when you first submit the FAFSA. Later, if you need to add more, you can do so by going back to your saved FAFSA. If you would rather look at all available colleges in a given state, select a state, and the form will give you the alphabetical listing of all the colleges in that state. You can also narrow the search for colleges if you know the name of the city. Simply click on each college you'd like to attend to add it to your FAFSA. Finally, select whether you will live on campus, off campus, or with parents. The next section is called Dependency Determination. This section will determine if you need information from your parents. By the way, for the FAFSA, parents are defined as your birth or adoptive parents. You should answer questions based only on your birth or adoptive parents and on no other persons. Note that if you answer yes to any question in the dependency section, you will not need parental information. Some questions will already be answered based on previous information entered. Just a quick reminder, the FAFSA has some specific definitions, so remember, if you don't know how to answer a question, use the question mark to get a more detailed explanation. There is a section called Special Circumstances. Here's what that means. If you are required to provide parental information but cannot due to a special circumstance as defined by the FAFSA, you may complete the FAFSA without your parental information. But you must contact the colleges you are considering attending for additional instructions. You will have to provide documentation to support your own special situation. Next, parents' demographic information. This is where, if required, you'll enter information about your birth or adoptive parents. First, enter your parents' marital status. This will determine if you will need to enter information for both of your parents. If your parent is single or widowed, you will only need to enter information for that one parent. If your parents are divorced or separated, enter information for the parents that provide the most support. Typically, that's the parent you live with most. If that parent has remarried, you must also enter information for your step-parent. If your parents are married or unmarried and living together, then enter information for both parents. Enter the Social Security number for your parent or parents. If a parent doesn't have a Social Security number, enter all zeros. Household size is included in this section. The number for parents and the student will be pre-populated. For the parent or parents who you are using for the FAFSA, enter the number of your parents' other children, even if they do not live in the home, if your parents will provide more than half their support during the academic year you are applying for aid, or if they can answer no to every dependency question. Next, enter the number of other persons living in your parents' household if your parents are providing more than half their support, and will do so during the academic year you are applying for aid. Next, enter the number from the total number in the household size, other than your parents, who will be attending college at least half the time during the year you are applying for aid. It's very important to get these figures correct. Let's recap. The student and parents will be pre-populated. Add siblings that are in the house or that your parents will provide more than half their support during the year you are in college, even if they don't live in your parents' house. Also enter the number of anyone else living in your parents' house for whom your parents provide more than half their support and will do so during the year you are in college. For example, if your grandmother lives with your parents and your parents take care of her. Now on to the questions about your parents' federal income tax information. The FAFSA will tell you which year's tax information to use. Depending on your parents' tax filing status, they may be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool. This will allow some tax data to transfer from the IRS to the FAFSA, making this process much smoother and easier. The FAFSA will direct you to the IRS, but remember, the parent must have an FSA ID. If he or she doesn't have an FSA ID, they can create one here. If an FSA ID cannot be created, the information must be manually entered. Please note that your address must match the address used when their taxes were filed. From the IRS site, simply click on the Submit button. The next screen will show data that will be copied into your FAFSA. From here, check the Transfer My Tax Information box. Then, click on the Transfer Now button. Next, the Parental Financial Information section has tax information that is transferred from the IRS and additional information that must be entered, like the separate amount earned by each parent if parents who are married filed a joint return. There are additional questions about taxed and untaxed income that must be answered. Remember, if you're not sure how to answer, click the question mark near the end of the question. Additional questions may be asked, like total current balance of cash, checking, and savings accounts, and the net worth of any real property, excluding the home you're living in, and business. Read each question carefully. Next is student tax information and student financial information. This is where the student enters federal tax information if he or she worked and filed taxes. This is similar to the parent's tax information. Okay, we're getting close to the end now. Next, you'll receive the Fafsa Summary. Review the summary very carefully. If you see an error, click on that question to go back to update your answer. Then, click on Check for Errors to get back to the summary page. At the bottom of the Fafsa Summary, click on Next to get to the Sign and Submit section. This is where you and one of your parents sign the Fafsa. If the FSA ID was previously used in the Fafsa, it will not be needed here. If the FSA ID was not used, then you'll have to provide your username and password. Both student and parent will have to agree to terms by reading, then clicking on Agree. Then click on Sign Fafsa. All done? Then click Submit Now to submit the Fafsa. By the way, if neither of your parents has a social security number, be sure to click on the Fafsa filing option and then print, sign, and mail the signature page. Next, you'll receive the confirmation page that will list the colleges selected and the estimated family contribution. The confirmation page will be emailed to the address provided in the Fafsa. If you need more information, you can check out the What Happens Next section. Some important things to remember. Complete the Fafsa as soon as possible. Never pay to have your Fafsa submitted. It's free. If you have special circumstances, talk with someone from your school or from a college, even if that college is different from the one you plan to attend. Check your email and postal mail daily, or 2 times a day. Respond to any request you get as soon as possible. If you have any questions, seek answers. For more information on completing the Fafsa and other financial aid information, go to www.studentaid.gov. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your college journey.
So I know that was a lot of information, but it's very concise and focuses on exactly what we need you to know to get started. Now I just need to get back to the actual FAFSA, which, I'm sorry, FAFSA on the mind PowerPoint, which I believe I'm able to do from current slide. Okay. Let me just make sure I didn't skip one. So we always have this question about being dependent or independent. And one thing we need to understand is for financial aid purposes, they make the determination of who is a dependent student and who is independent. And the independent student does not have to provide their parents' information. If they're single, they provide their own income information, family size, marital status. If they're married and have children, they provide that information. But these 10 items here that they list are potential questions that if you can answer yes to one of these questions on the FAFSA, you will not be asked for parental information. Now, there are some of these questions that you will be asked by the institution to provide that supporting documentation for. Example is the unaccompanied youth and or someone who is a youth at risk of homelessness or is homeless. We have to have documentation if that's the only thing that you said yes to. Emancipated minor, another one, if at any time after you turn age 13, if you were in the foster care system for 1 day, then you could potentially be considered independent and not need to provide parents' information, but that needs to be documented. So
Alice, if you could, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
If you wouldn't mind, I'm not able to see that PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, okay. Thank you for telling me. Well, whoever just ran the, wow, I feel so inept at technology tonight. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to make this, okay. And, okay. I need to go back here and I need to share again. Sorry about that.
No worries. If you don't mind, afterwards, we can share the PowerPoint presentation as well, or
Yes.
information from the PowerPoint presentation. So if there's anything that we may have missed, we'll have it on there. And of course, we'll always share the contact information from all the wonderful speakers here. But
Yeah.
is it up yet?
I believe it is. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So this was the slide with the 10 options that I was talking about. When you get to the dependency section and they ask all these questions, we're looking for someone to be able to answer yes to any one of these questions. If they cannot, then they are considered for financial aid purposes a dependent student, and the FAFSA does require parental information. Now, sometimes people will tell us, but I have this unique situation. One parent's deceased, one's incarcerated. One parent's deceased, it's never been part of their life. No one knows where they are. There'd be documentation from family members, clergy, potentially school. Sometimes there's attorneys, sometimes there's caseworkers, therapists, different third-party individuals who could provide that documentation. So if you're someone that falls in that situation where you cannot provide your parents' information, then you need to reach out to a financial aid counselor at the school that you plan to go to. Now, you can reach out to a counselor at any school, but for example, if you came to me and we did a dependency override, but you actually were attending USF Financial Aid Office doesn't necessarily accept the dependency override that I did. Each school typically does their own process of making sure that we're meeting the federal guidelines as far as a dependency override. So we'd be happy to talk to you. Anyone at any school would be happy to talk to you about it, but that change would have to be implemented at the school that you are attending. Does anyone have any questions on these 10 items? These tend to be things that do generate a lot of questions. Everybody's good with that? Okay, well, that was easy. So this slide just basically reiterates the whole purpose of a dependency override, and also explains that it's not just a matter of the dependent student who tells us, I don't live with my parents. I have been in my parents' house since I was 16. I pay my own bills. That alone does not give us enough for us to say, oh, never mind, we don't need your parents. The federal government looks at it that it is the family's responsibility to provide for the educational resources of any individual. So sometimes people qualify for grant, which is free money, based on the income, assets, all that information they report on the FAFSA, and sometimes they don't. We have people who will come and say, well, I'm not going to fill that out. I'm not putting my parents' information on there because I won't qualify for any financial aid. And that's not, it's not something that we're allowed to do. You have to have those unusual circumstances that are documented. But the reality is anybody and everybody is eligible for financial aid. What they may not be eligible for is the free grant money, and maybe they're only eligible for loans. So sometimes we get some confusion in that area when people think loans are not financial aid. They are part of financial aid. So anyone could have financial aid in the form of an unsubsidized loan, which is not always our first choice. You're paying the interest on those loan disbursements, and if you don't pay the interest quarterly, then it gets added to your principal. So over time, your unsubsidized loan amount that you owe back is much, much more than it was when you actually borrowed. So don't get caught in that, well, I'm just not going to put my parents' information because I won't get the free money. I won't get financial aid is what you say, what people say, but free money is typically what they mean. The other thing is we have to understand that not everyone qualifies for grant money. While I feel like almost everyone I see qualifies for at least a little bit of a Pell Grant, sometimes they don't. So the whole guidance is that there is grant money available to students who have low incomes. And
Alice?
those that are higher income, they don't qualify for the free money. Yes.
Those are really good points. But I've had a question in the past, and
Okay.
um, if a student or family knows that they may be making a little bit more than what they anticipate, or do they, if a family is making, I guess, more than maybe an average to receive a lot of these Pels, a Pell Grant or grants or scholarships, should that prohibit them from filling out the FAFSA
No,
even if they do not want to take a loan?
it should not, because they could apply for scholarships. And if a scholarship is what's considered to be need-based, the determination of need comes from the student having fill out the FAFSA. And then, and we did not incorporate it into this presentation, but I'll give you just a general overview. I believe it was Kason introduced the cost of attendance. All colleges and universities have a cost of attendance. Our formula for financial aid is cost of attendance minus expected family contribution, and that comes on your FAFSA application result, that EFC number. The difference is your need and for financial aid, and then we start subtracting like a Pell Grant or anything, a scholarship that you automatically got. The remainder is what we call unmet need. So maybe someone is not eligible for a Pell Grant and does loans, but they want to work on campus as a federal work study student. That's a prime example of why you would do your FAFSA, because the federal work study funding requires that you have unmet need. So that's kind of my answer is kind of reaching into like the next level of presentation. But that's a very good question, because a lot of people will think, well, if I know that I'm not going to get grant money, or I think I know that I'm not going to get grant money, or my neighbor told me don't bother applying, I'm not going to get grant money, then to not do it, you're limiting your opportunities for scholarships.
And it doesn't hurt to do it necessarily.
It does not. It's free. It does not hurt at all. You might decide you want to be work study. You might find out about a scholarship that could be available that requires that you've done the FAFSA. And you
Awesome.
might be surprised. You might be eligible for a little bit of a Pell Grant. A little bit is better than nothing. At SPC, we have a student incentive grant that we typically award, I believe it's $400 a semester, to students who are like just over the mark of being Pell eligible. At a higher EFC number, the amount of Pell award goes down, and then you get where you cross the line where if I had the EFC of, let's say 4,800, I was Pell eligible, but my EFC is 6,200. That 6,200 is not Pell eligible. That's where we start awarding our institutional funds first come, first serve till the money's gone. So no, you should never not do the FAFSA just because, and certainly not because your neighbor, friend, uncle, sister, cousin told you when I went to school, this happened, so don't do that. Unless a financial aid counselor tells you not to complete a FAFSA, you should complete a FAFSA.
Awesome.
And
And they
by
wouldn't tell
the
you
way,
to do
no one
that.
would ever tell you,
No
no
one
one
would
in
ever tell you to
financial
do
aid would
that.
ever tell you not to complete the FAFSA. Yeah,
Awesome.
there's a lot of
But
misconceptions, honest mistakes and things, so ask us. Even if you're not coming to our school, ask us. We'd be happy to help you, because that's what we do.
awesome.
Same thing with the change of circumstances. We're in a real zone now where we're talking to students every day. Well, on the FAFSA for the current year, they were required to report their 2018 tax year income. And now we are in 2020 and we are in our COVID world. People have some severe and drastic changes of income. So we've always had what we call a change in circumstances, and both of these fall under the category of professional judgment. So Sometimes I slip up and call everything a PJ. So change the circumstances, you would document for us what your income was in 2018 or 19, depends on the year of the FAFSA. And then you would have to document your lack of income now, which has been pretty easy for people to do. They have furlough letters. They would give us their last pay stub, and we can see how much they earned before they were furloughed in 2020. And then they give us their documentation for unemployment. We can see that. We can see that they qualify. With the proper documentation, a financial aid counselor can go into the FAFSA and make a change in circumstances. What we do is replace the reported numbers with the new numbers that are more accurate and current, and then we reprocess that, which ends up changing the student's eligibility. So maybe somebody was not Pell eligible based on their 2018 income, but if they were furloughed in the first part of March of 2020 and they've not found any work and they've decided to go to school, we're up to November now, where it's almost November. So we can document and show a financial aid counselor how much we did earn. Now it's a little more difficult to document the little bit that you've earned or the change in your income in 2020, but we are a pretty creative bunch, and you know, if you'll answer our questions, we can usually pry that information out of you and help you figure out how to document. That's a conversation for a financial aid counselor.
I don't, my apologies, I didn't want to cut you off, but I do still want to be mindful of the time. I did see a few questions about the FAFSA that Danica has answered the first one, but the FAFSA should be completed every year that a student does attend college. So every October, the application opens October 1st. So if they're going in this year, they're going to do it again next year, and the year after that. As every single year, you should
absolutely
complete the FAFSA. And then also, I see a question here about assistance in completing the FAFSA. There are FAFSA Fridays in which you can go to and speak with either financial aid counselors to help you complete the FAFSA. SPC, have we set out that schedule already for the FAFSA Fridays? Or FAFSA?
I'm not familiar with the FAFSA Fridays, but we have 3 virtual events planned. That's information. We're working in collaboration with Brooke Pear at Pinellas County Schools, and the information should be going out soon to Pinellas County students, both private schools and public schools. November 5th, which I believe is next Thursday evening from 5:30 to 7:30. November 12th and November 19th. That information that they will receive will give them the Zoom contact information, and we will all be online helping people. We'll move them from different breakout rooms and help students and their parents with their FAFSA questions and helping them get that completed. We normally in past years have done anywhere from 5 to 7 events where we went out to schools, and we would go out to different communities. But this year, at this point, the initial sessions are 3 virtual sessions in November. There'll probably be more in February.
All right, so I will send that out as well. Okay. And then I know that there are some, and again, we'll touch base as PATHe. We'll be able to either assist you in finding some of those events for you to get that one-on-one assistance, or answer a few of those questions for you. But to continue on, I would like to thank you again, Alice, for your time. We may not be able to necessarily finish this portion because we still have to get through a little bit more information about scholarships.
This is my last slide that you're showing. Awesome. I just want to say, if you're verified, reach out to us and let us help you through it. I didn't create this slide, but I like his picture. Don't freak out. It's not an IRS audit. If you hear the verification word, just reach out to the school financial aid office.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Information.
Sorry about the confusion. I'll work on my technology skills for next time.
It happened. But we will still include this information and your contact information and some of the emails we'll send afterwards. So With that being said, thank you, Alice, and I'm going to hand it over to Danica to talk a little bit more about scholarships.
Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen? Yes. Okay, so my name is Danica Walker, and like Charlene and Sandy, I am a PATHe counselor at the University of South Florida Saint Petersburg campus, and we'll talk a little bit more about the PATHe program and how we can assist you and your students, or if you are a student, how we can assist you during your senior year and provide you with all of the connections that we can to make sure that you're transitioning to college smoothly. But I wanted to talk to you about scholarship information. I am not Brooke Pear, but Brooke Pear is the financial aid school counselor for Pinellas County Schools. She's the person who put together this presentation. We thought it was very critical that you guys receive this information. So what we're going to go over is just a few places that you can find scholarship information. So one of the really great resources that is available is that Pinellas County School District has a financial aid website. So on that website, you'll find information about scholarship opportunities, Bright Futures information, Pinellas Education Foundation, FAFSA, and then I'll also talk to you a little bit about college search engines. So this picture that you see is actually a cutout from the Pinellas Pinellas County School Board's website. So if you would go to pcsb.org/financial aid, this is what you would see. So currently Pinellas County Schools has a Pinellas e-counselor, which is available to all students, and it's the newest resource to get questions answered after school hours. Additionally, they have scholarship opportunities that have been updated since September 21st of this year. There are scholarships also available for undocumented students. The College Board Opportunity Scholarship, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about, and then it provides you additional information about Bright Futures, about the state of Florida grants and scholarship programs, information about Pinellas Education Foundation, and then some additional resources for FAFSA. So one of the really great things that's available is the Pinellas Education Foundation. Pinellas Education Foundation offers scholarships to traditional high school seniors. So there are more than 100 different scholarships that is available to over 250 high school students who are in Pinellas County. Those scholarship criteria can range from music and theater to science and math and even sports scholarships. The scholarship application is available online, and it does require that students complete an essay. The application opens on September 30th, so it's already open, and the deadline is January 15th of next year. So please check out that website, and then you can also look for other opportunities, including the Take Stock in Children, as well as Walker's Rising Stars. And then there's a really cool scholarship that I'm not sure that everybody knows about, but it's called the College Board Opportunity Scholarships. So this is open to all students, regardless of their GPAs or test scores or family income. And what's really cool about it is it simplifies the college application process. So what that means is students get the opportunity to apply for scholarships by doing the things that they need to do to just apply for college. So there are no essays or applications, and students get rewarded in different steps of the process. And it is currently open to high school students now. So what it does is, as students go through the process of completing the steps, they'll be entered into the opportunity to receive different scholarships. So the first one is Build Your College List. That means that students would go into Big Future, which is offered through College Board, and they would select the schools that they were interested in applying to. And by just doing that, that would have offered them the opportunity to receive a $500 scholarship. The next one is to practice for the SAT. So students would link their College Board to Khan Academy, and they would practice for a certain amount of time to increase their SAT scores. And by doing that, that would give them the option of receiving $1,000. If they improve their score, that gives them the option to receive $2,000. And then if they go back to that list that was mentioned in step 1, and they make a more solidified list, that puts them in the running for $500. If they complete their FAFSA, that puts them in the running for another $1,000. And then applying to college puts them in the running for another $1,000. And the students who've completed all 6 steps, they get put into the running for $40,000. And there are 25 scholarships at the $40,000 level. So it's a really cool opportunity. And like I said, because it's taking the students through the steps that they need in order to complete the application process, it gives them the chance for more money, and they're doing the things that they already have to do. So here are the dates and deadlines for the College Board Opportunity Scholarships. Some of them have already passed, but the vast majority have not. So the build option ended in August. However, there's still time for practice, which is practicing for the SAT, improving the SAT score. There's still time to strengthen the college list that they have, as well as to complete FAFSA and apply. So if you want any more information, I can definitely get that to you. Other places to find scholarships. So colleges and universities offer scholarships for any school that you are, if you're a parent, your child is looking at, they will have foundational scholarships that are available, and then they'll also have admission scholarships. So it's really important to check into the schools that you're planning on attending or your student is planning on attending to see what else is available from the school itself. Additionally, there are outside scholarships. So there are scholarships that are offered at the local level. So these may be through local organizations such as churches. Your employer may have a scholarship. The Rotary Club has scholarships. So there's a lot of different places that you can look in the local area. There's also state scholarships, so like Bright Futures, and then there are national scholarships. So Gates Millennial and Coca-Cola are two of the really big scholarship places that you can look. They provide a great amount of money to students. And then here are some websites that you can check out for scholarships. So there's FastWeb, My College Dollars, Big Future, which is through College Board, scholarships.com, and scholarshipexperts.com. And then there's another one called raise.me, which is another really cool scholarship opportunity. So raise.me offers students micro scholarships. So they can go into raise.me and look to see what schools are available, because not all schools offer money through raise.me. And then if you have certain criteria that are met, so for example, some schools offer scholarship money if a student attends an open house. So they may give $100 if you've attended an open house, or if you've completed honors classes, they may give you additional money for that. So the way to guarantee that you get the money is that once you're admitted to the school, they'll give you that money. So if you don't choose to go to that school, if you're not admitted to that school, you don't get to keep it. But if you do choose to go to that school and you are admitted, they are obligated to give you the micro scholarships that they offered you. And then Florida State scholarships and grants. So there are 13 scholarships and grants that are offered, and you can find these at www.floridastudentfinancialaid.org. And some of the things that you can find there is fact sheets about each of the grants and scholarships, the latest legislative information, the Bright Futures Student Handbook, and then the Florida Financial Application Scholarship. And then for Bright Futures, the application opens October 1st. And just like I mentioned, www.floridastudentfinancialaid.org is where you can go to learn more information about Bright Futures, but also to apply. In the world of COVID, because it matters, normally for Bright Futures, a student would have to have their SAT score submitted by, I want to say it's June 31st of their senior year. This past school year, which is for students who graduated in 2020, they extended that deadline through August so that students would have more time to meet the requirements for Bright Futures. So they haven't acknowledged if that's going to change for this current school year or not. But I would definitely say if you go to their website, they do have a running tab across the top of the screen that lets you know if there's any changes that have been made to Bright Futures. So general Bright Futures requirements: you have to be a Florida resident and U.S. citizen. You have to complete the FFA by no later than August 31st after graduating from high school. You have to earn a standard Florida high school diploma or its equivalent, not have been found guilty of or pled no contendere to a felony charge. You have to be accepted and enrolled into a degree or certification program at an eligible Florida public or independent post-secondary institution. Be enrolled for at least 6 non-remedial semester credits. And if you're not funded for the academic year immediately following college graduation, apply within 5 years of high school graduation to be awarded reinstated. So I have some questions. So the first question I have is, are they extending or lowering volunteer hours due to COVID? I have not seen yet that they have made any changes to the volunteer hours so far. And then the next question, I'm sorry.
There are, I know, for students or people who are a little bit concerned with getting hours, maybe because of COVID, some online opportunities for community service hours. I'll make sure to include it. It's with, I believe, is it the Smithsonian, which requires you to, transcribe vocab or some audio. So we will look into that as well and try to get you some either opportunities or the answer.
Okay, so the next question is the FAA the same as FAFSA? No, FAA is not the same as FAFSA. So FAFSA is for federal aid, so anybody in the country can apply for FAFSA. FFAA is specifically for for Florida students, and it allows them to apply to grants and scholarships that are specifically for students that are in the state of Florida. So if you're interested, you have to apply for both of them separately. Do you need to have taken your SAT or ACT before applying to Bright Futures? I don't think you have to take it before. So if I'm not mistaken, it opens in October, so you can start putting in the information as you have it. You just have to have it completed by a certain time. So they do give you the chance and the time to retest if you need to. And like I mentioned, this past graduating class, they had until August 31st to put in their final ACT or SAT test scores. They haven't mentioned if they're going to do that for this school year as well. So you would have a little bit of time. So if you haven't taken it yet, but you've already started the application process, you could have some time to put the test scores in. And then, so there's 4 different Bright Future options. So there's Florida Academic, Florida Medallion. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. The Florida Gold Seal Cape, and Florida Seal Vocational. And then each has their own specific criteria and specific coursework, GPA test score requirements, and community service. And then you can find out what your current award level status is. Usually it's, the guidance counselors will offer students the opportunity to find out if they're in the 12th and 11th grade, where they're at in their first semester. Okay. And then I will also send this out to everyone so that you have all the links. And like I said, one of the best places that you can go is to the Pinellas County School Board's website and go to www.pcsb.org/financial aid. They have a lot of great information. And I'm also going to share with you Brooke Pear's contact information because, like I said, she's the person who put it together and she's a great resource to have when looking for financial aid opportunities.
Thank you, Danica, for sharing a lot about the scholarships. And as she mentioned, we will be able to share these links with you. It is a lot, I know, but we will be able to share those with you, as well as some of those, someone asked for those volunteer opportunities online. I'll make sure to include some of those links so that we can either volunteer online and get some hours, and then learn about these different scholarship opportunities available. With that being said, thank you, whoever's volunteermatch.org. Yes, also, if you have anything like that you would like to share with anyone else here, go ahead and put it in the chat. But while you're doing that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Sandy, who is our third and wonderful PATHe counselor, to share a little bit more about what PATHe is, what we can do for you, and then introduce ourselves again. And I think you're still muted, Sandy.
Of course I am. Wouldn't be right if I didn't have technical difficulties. All right, let's see. Gotta go with the flow here. Hold on.
While that is going, I'm going to
Thank you.
with the question, do you need to have taken your ACT or SAT before applying for Bright Futures? Oh, and I believe that one was answered, but if you could answer that again for me, Danica.
So you can start the application process for Bright Futures before you complete your SAT or ACT test scores. You just have to have them submitted by the deadline that the FFAA determines.
Can you see my screen?
And I can see it. Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So I know that everybody's heard a lot of information tonight, and it can be really overwhelming. We talked about the different admissions process. We talked about financial aid applications. And then we haven't even touched on if your child's looking at a vocational school or a trade school. So that's why PATHe is here. Charlene and Danica and I are all PATHe counselors, and PATHe stands for Pinellas Access to Higher Education. It is a partnership program between the University of South Florida's Saint Petersburg campus and Saint Petersburg College. So we want to share a little bit about what PATHe is. So the mission of PATHe is to build awareness and provide equitable, flexible, and attainable pathways to promote access to higher education. Basically, we are basically tasked with helping students in Pinellas County attain higher education credentials, whatever they may be. Whether you're looking at a certification, a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, we want to help all the students achieve their goals of higher education. So the three of us are PATHe counselors, and we comprise a cross-institutional team that does community outreach. We develop partnerships with local high schools and middle schools. We supply resources at different community organization events, and we also counsel students and their families to just answer their questions. A lot of times we hear from students that they just need a question answered, or they need someone to help them from point A to point B. We are not recruiters. We talked a lot about USF and SPC tonight. But if your student is looking to get into UF or UWF or UNF or any school, we are resources to just help them navigate their way to be able to apply. As a PATHe counselor, we typically would be in the classroom right now. With COVID, we cannot go in and do classroom presentations, and that's how tonight's presentation came about. Since we're not able to go into our classrooms as we normally would, we wanted to offer it just to the community in general. So we're doing presentations. Tonight is focused on the senior high school student, but we're going to continue these presentations and focus on what the junior students should be doing, what the sophomore students should be doing, and then what the freshman students should be doing. As you picked up pieces of information tonight, I'm sure if you're the parent of a senior, you're probably thinking, oh, we should have done that, or we should have maybe looked into different majors, or maybe we should have toured colleges a couple of years ago. So our goal is to prepare students as early as possible to do all the research that they can, so when they are seniors, they can make the best decision for themselves. We're presenting at SAC meetings or PTSA meetings, student and family consultations. So if you're all sitting there wondering how you're going to remember everything tonight, as Charlene and Danica has shared, we're going to send you this information, but if you need someone to just help you navigate and understand it all, PATHe counselors are available. We also meet with teachers and guidance counselors and other school staff to just support any events that are going on at school. With COVID, this is an exceptional challenge this year. Typically, we do have face-to-face meetings with all the events going on at the school, but we're trying to do the same virtually this year. We can answer your questions about grades. We can talk to you about career options. We discuss dual enrollment and AP and how they affect college admissions. We've talked a lot tonight about SAT and ACT testing. We found a lot of students basically missed out on some opportunities last year because when COVID hit in March, SAT and ACT testing were canceled. So last opportunity to take your test is really not what you want to do. You want to take those tests as early and as often as you can. We can talk to you about the different school choices after high school and what careers require what type of schooling. We can go over all the different admission requirements. As Kaysen shared with us tonight, USF is looking at those test scores and GPA. Other schools may be looking at other admission requirements, so we can help you sort through that. And just like Alice shared, we can talk to you about financial aid. We may not have all the answers to your questions, but we work continuously with wonderful people like Alice and Kaysen and Melvin and many others in the different institutions. So we can definitely get those answers for you or connect you with the right people that have them. We also have a cohort of students that work with us, and they've decided to start at SPC with the intention to transfer to USF on the Saint Petersburg campus. PATHe is a Pinellas County program. So these particular students are looking at specifically transferring to the Saint Petersburg campus of USF. This group of students that we basically call our PATHe students at SPC, they started SPC with the intention of completing their first 2 years and then transfer to USF to finish out their junior and senior years. There are some exceptions where students transfer before finishing the first 2 years, but that's something that we counsel them in. You know, for certain students, it's more of a benefit to finish out their AA or their first 2 years. Other students may want to transfer early, but again, we support whatever decision they choose. PATHe counselors provide support and engagement at both institutions throughout every year of their bachelor's degree. So it's nice to be able to have someone to reach out and talk to throughout their freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year of college, and can help them with any challenges that come to them during those years. Our PATHe students at SPC have scholarship opportunities upon transfer to USF St. Petersburg campus, and these students engage with each other, engage with both institutions. They benefit from all the resources from both schools. So a lot of times we'll call this a 2+2 plan, but if students would like to start at SPC with the intention of transferring to the St. Petersburg campus of USF, we encourage you to contact us to be part of the PATHe program. As we introduced ourselves at the beginning, there are 3 PATHe counselors right now, and the 3 of us work both at USF and SPC with students to just make sure that they maximize the most out of being a college student. And that may mean just making use of all the resources like tutoring and student leadership, possibly getting involved in student government, helping them find internships, really getting students engaged in everything that the college has to offer for them. So Danica Walker, Charlene Ajamong, and myself are available, as I said, to meet with families individually or meet with students. And if you're interested in the PATHe program, we'd be happy to talk to you more about that. And that's us. Any questions about the PATHe program? And of course, it's not letting me unshare.
Thank you, Sandy, for sharing a little bit more about PATHe and how PATHe can be of assistance not only to students while they're deciding to what they're doing after high school, but as they're making their way through high school or through college and university. I do see a question. Will we get a copy of the presentations from tonight? Yes, we will be sending out the information from tonight's workshop, as well as a survey for you to complete if you can. If anyone has any questions, again, PATHe is always here to answer them, but we can take a few questions right now. You can also go ahead and unmute yourself, or you can always type it in the chat. FERPA. FERPA is, I forgot what the acronym means, but it is basically somewhat, I call it the HIPAA of education. So meaning that there are certain things that universities, colleges, and people within higher education may or may not discuss with anyone other than the student. So parents, you may not be able to, call a college and or ask very specific questions without prior approval from the student, and they usually will have the FERPA waiver. Thank you. Federal Education Right to Privacy Act. So basically, the privacy for students usually remains with students unless they give proper authority ahead of time. So you can't call in and just see, hey, what their grades are like, or have they completed certain things with their financial aid without prior approval. Did that answer your question at all? Awesome. But if we do not have any questions, should you waive your right? That would be a discussion that I believe you would have either with the people who would be accessing that information, and also the college or institution that you'll be attending. Obviously, going through college, it is going to require a lot of support, not only from your family, but different resources if they're available. So that would be inevitably up to you as a student, but that is not a question I think can be broadly answered yes or no. It really depends on each student. Awesome. Okay.
If I can, I will say, in my experience, students, when it comes to your records and what's going on, if your parents are going to be working with you, be honest with them. There's a lot of times they get calls where like a parent's like, why did my student get admitted? They have a 4.9 GPA. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's not what that is. And I can't disclose that information. I'm just like, you need to have a talk with your parent, or you need to have a talk with your student. So it makes my job a little bit more complicated, but there's a lot of information as far as the student's record, whether or not the student has been admitted, what their admission GPA is, test scores, things like that, that I as an admission counselor cannot discuss with anyone but the student unless there's prior written consent. So you're going to need a lot of support from your parents, but make sure that you guys are having these conversations and you're on the same page, because it's really frustrating for us to get called and yelled at about something, and we're like, talk to your mom or talk to your student. Like, so that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, it's fairly true. And then also, it doesn't necessarily have to be for your parents. So let's say you are working with a counselor who's really helpful, and they may be doing things on your behalf. You can provide that access to them. It doesn't have to be someone who has, relation to you, like family.
But that's a good topic, Charlene, because it's a big change from high school. When you're a high school student, your parents have access to all your information. But once you're a college student, that is your personal information and no one can access it without your permission. So just realize that, and for some students, that's exciting for them to own the information, but along with that comes a lot of responsibility. So as everyone shared tonight, it's really a conversation you want to have with your parents.
And it does apply to students who are under 18. So if you're applying to a school and you're 16 or 17, FERPA does not automatically, FERPA automatically applies to you regardless of if you're 18 or not. All right, so with that being said, I would like to once again thank you for coming to this workshop tonight. Check out your emails for all of these presentations, our contact information, and the survey. And if you have no other questions or no will to look at me looking into the camera, I'll let you guys go. And I want to thank you once more. And thank you to our speakers and representatives from the different schools. Thank you all so much.